day, my friends. I'm going to continue my Don't Give Up series and pick up where I last left off, but just because there's so much that went on at this time frame, I'm going to do just a little bit of a recap. Where I last left off, remember, was my ex-husband is in the last few months of his life battling stage 4 liver and colon cancer. He finally calls me. We finally get to talk a couple of months before he passed away. So I got the answer to a long prayer, of having that closure with him and talking to him. So I was so at least happy that happened, and he didn't pass away without not talking to me first. So we got that opportunity right around the time frame that I renew my license, a little early. So I thought I'd get on that because it was going to be coming up soon to have my renewal. And I'm glad I did that because I found out that there was some changes with the DMV. That all happened because of 9/11. A lot of the states started to change the requirements, not only when you move to a state, but even if you renew a license at that time, even if you'd already been living in that state, you had to show proof of your birth, okay? Now, once you do that, because the people had already been living there, they just wanted to have on their records that you have showed proof of your birth, okay? So I go in there to renew my driver's license, and all I have is a little certificate that you get from the hospital. I made it through my whole life with that little certificate from the hospital, because you never really had to show proof from a county records office with the seal on it of your birth. Up until that point, almost everything in life, I got married, I did everything, just with that certificate. Well, now things have changed. So I go to the DMV and they say, sorry, this paper is not any good. You have to get the one from the county records office. So they told me what I needed to do, because I'm now living in a state where I was not born in. So I went through the vitalrecords.com, I think is what the website is, and I start working on the process to get my proof of birth. So I find out through that process that there was no record of my birth. Now, they have my 2 sisters, but they don't have me, right? So I'm thinking, what? This can't be happening. So I talked to somebody, actually suggested that I maybe try through the state capital records. So I went through there, not just the city where I was born, but the actual state capital where I was born. So I notify them. I send, again, paperwork, everything. They searched. There was no record of my birth at all in the state where I was born. I was shocked. I was speechless. I was horrified. How could I be born in America, in the USA, and not have my birth recorded? But they have my sisters, right? So at the time that this is happening, I'm on my first extension with my driver's license, and you only get 2 extensions. That's it. And I have to have a vehicle to travel in because of my disabilities. There's just no way I can be walking around trying to get to work. I didn't even work, my job wasn't in the same area where I lived, so it was just not doable for me to be able to do buses or anything like that. So I'm horrified. As my ex-husband is progressing, and I know that he doesn't have much longer to live while I'm dealing with all of this. So right around the time that now my ex-husband passes away, I also get the news that now the state, Capitol records doesn't have a record of my birth either. So I'm running in the next month, going for my next extension, for my last extension for my driver's license, but I quickly think fast that I better go hire a lawyer, So I hire a lawyer to get my driver's license, and I hired a really good one. And what helped me at that time was I was the trustee of my parents' estate when they passed away, before they passed away and when they passed away. So basically I was the trustee to their estate. So I had all kinds of the records. I had their birth, their everything, the living trust that proved who I was. I still carry my ex-husband's last name. So when I'm trying to get my birth, or when I went for my birth record, they see obviously I have a different name than my birth name. And so when I hired the lawyer, the best thing too that I had to do was also come up with the document, the proof of my divorce, saying who I was. So I had to go and get all those original records. Just a lot of work ahead of me, piecing together, proving that I was a U.S. citizen. I was born from my parents. Just everything. So this lawyer helped me. I think it took about another month piecing everything together to show the DMV and to get proof, of everything, to get my driver's license. So he ended up piecing everything together. He had to go through the Secretary of State to get the head of the DMV in Oregon to now look at my case. And so they look at everything, they present everything, and they finally give the okay to get my driver's license. But I had to take the book that my lawyer had put everything together. Everything was numbered, everything, of all my proof, and all the original documents, and then take that into the local branch where I was living to look at everything. And then they proceeded forward with me winning my case and getting my driver's license. So by that time, my ex-husband has now passed away, and now it's in the next month where I'm working with his family, also trying to come up with pictures and things like that to of our time together that they were putting together for his memorial. So I'm kind of trying to deal with the grief of that, deal with, the grief of my driver's license as I'm trying to win my case, which I do start to win my case. And all these things are unfolding now together. And also I end up now battling another obstacle, a long time battle for a couple of years of an incident that happened at my job. Okay, so, oh my gosh. So here we go with this one. So what has happened is, as I mentioned in a previous video, that I had to get a doctor's note to have a stool because they increased my hours at work. So I'm now having this stool to help get through my increased hours right at work. One time a few years before, at this time frame, I ended up dropping a product. I was ringing somebody up because I was a dog trainer / part-time cashier, right? Lead cashier. I kind of did many things at this company. And so I'm cashiering at this particular time. I ended up having a product, and I'm ringing up And then we have pretty much the register here. We have a counter. We have our bagging station. And I'm sitting on the stool just about like I'm showing you here. And then at the very end of the counter, we were allowed to put our baskets. So if we have a line of people, we were allowed at the end of the counter, so up against the counter, to put our baskets, get our line out of the way, and then grab those baskets and then go run them up to the front of the store, basically. So I didn't have like a lot of people, just a couple people in line, but enough that this lady came up. She was the second person in line. The person in front of her, I put the basket down on the floor, and I started, ring up this next person in line. And it was a lady. I also had started dropping things. To this day, they don't know why. I think I have something and I don't. And I think I have it gripped and I just drop. I mean, I'm still an ongoing issue that I battle with. And so I'm sitting on the stool, I'm bagging, I go to, grab the product, and I rang it up and I was going to put it in the bag, and I ended up dropping it on my side of the check stand. So when that had happened, the lady just didn't think. I mean, she just quickly decided to dart around as if to maybe help me to pick up what I had dropped. When she did that, it was in September. She was wearing flip-flops, so not even the best type of shoes. And so she came around real quickly, hit the basket that was on the floor, and then she fell. Okay. Now, it took a couple years later for her to decide to sue the company. I guess she supposedly had ongoing issues. She wasn't getting better, and so, but at that time she kept saying, yeah, I'm fine, because I went to her and she goes, I'm fine. She was just so embarrassed. She was just like really dramatized everything and how embarrassed she was, and she just wanted to leave. She kept saying she was fine, but she was just so embarrassed. And I told her I had to go get a manager because she had fallen, and it was just our policy. So I went and got a manager, and they took her and took care of her from that point. So, long story, short, if possible, she tries to sue the company, and now at the time that after about, actually 2 months later, after my ex-husband passed away, I get contacted by the company's lawyer that I met like maybe a year before that. But now we are now having to go to court over this case, and it was set up for around March. That we're going to have to go before the judge, and they're preparing me and what's going to happen and the whole process of that. So I had to be game on. Okay, we're about to go to court over this ordeal. So it turns out that when we finally get to court, they could just tell the lady had some really big issues. She really did. And so it went before a jury, and so the bottom line is she didn't win. They found fault in both parts, right? Which, in other words, through its policy and allowing those baskets on the floor, that was the fault on the company, and then also her part too. So they found fault in both parties, and so she didn't win the money she was trying to win from the company. So that was really good that had happened. But right after that case had wrapped up, they also found me to be a liability, right, because of my disabilities. Most companies, it's really even hard to find a company that allows a person on a full-time basis to have a stool. If you need it full-time, it's really hard to find companies making decent money and everything to allow that. I know a lot of big chains out there that they just don't allow it. Maybe if you're pregnant and for short periods, but not long-term period, and mine was long-term. All my stuff was chronic. So I became a liability to the company, and so they had to have extra people on staff every time I worked because I could no longer do very much. I couldn't be on top of stools. I couldn't push or pull certain weights, lift. So it just became really, really hard. What the company did, or not the company, it was actually the managers at my particular store, what they did that was wrong. They should have went about this whole thing, I say, differently. But I was the victim. I hate to use the word the victim, but I don't know what else to call it, of job bullying, as they were trying really hard to make me quit, so they brought extreme amount of hardship on me to make it difficult for me to continue to work for them. So they were hoping that I would quit through everything that they were putting on my plate to make it difficult. So my feet started to swell, and my ankles, and I started to battle a lot more problems with me also running to the doctor, doing everything I can to work, and please help me to work. Instantly having abdominal issues and swelling and problems in my feet, and then finally I'm going, isn't it time I go see a pain management specialist, And so she sends me finally to a pain management specialist who's so sick and barely hanging on because of that situation. And so I just became so far worse. And even though I kept trying with the doctor, do what you can, please keep me working, and the pain management specialist, but the high increase of meds that it was taking for me to work was literally shutting down my system. The leg swelling was edema, and my liver was going high. So my liver was starting to have complications from the amount of medications it was taking for me to work. Now, before all of these events started to unfold, the crazy thing was a year before that period, I was also entertaining the thought of maybe getting a van because I loved camping, and I also was starting to see that camping and stuff like that was getting more challenging and difficult for me. So I ended up saying, well, maybe I could get something like that to continue that love that I've always, loved to do. So I started to research people of the van life or RV life or traveling, but I wasn't thinking I'd ever do it full time just to go camping. And also I was already downsizing my house because I came to the understanding that I could no longer take care of my home. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, double car garage, a 1/4 acre, and I just knew that I needed to downsize, and I was thinking, well, maybe a condominium, look at that direction. But now as these things started to unfold, the job and everything was happening, now I'm realizing, oh my God, I'm going to be losing my job here. With everything now that was happening. Okay, so now this is that current time where then now the thought of a condominium is out, because I could see the events that were happening with how they were treating me and going after me and really making it so hard for me. I don't want to get into that kind of detail, other than every morning I was waking up in tears. It was taking everything that I had to go to work. I had no strength to clean my house, for for the last several months of my job. I had a friend that came over and would help me to go grocery shopping, would help me to cook, and I would stock up my freezer with as much as possible. I was trying to do what I can at that time to keep up with just existing, just be able to cook, have food, and clean when my friend would come over and help me. I had nothing left. I literally would lay on the couch every time the second I got off of work. I had to lay on the couch. I had to use scooters and wheelchairs and things like that to go shopping, to go grocery shopping. My friend helped me because I didn't have the leg strength. So it just was a very, very hard time. I cried every day I went to work for those last several months because I was scared about my future, what was going to happen to me, my medical care. There's just so much fear that is just there at that time. And I remember in their office, the last thing when they were brought the last hardship against me, I was in their office because they didn't know that my feet were all wrapped up, all swollen, my ankles, and I had all these wraps underneath my pants that they didn't know. And I knew I was just about done. And I remember being in their office, and they had all these extra lead duties that they were putting on me, and I signed. They said, well, you have to sign this. This is your requirements, and you have to make sure you do all these things and the responsibilities. And they were just putting anything extra that they could put on me as possible. And I had tears in my eyes, and I looked at them and I said, I don't know what I've done to make you treat me this bad, as bad as I know that they were treating me. And I said, when I have worked for this company for 18 years, I've given my heart, my soul, my everything, always done everything you've asked me to do. I've always been kind and courteous and, polite. Other than I have these disabilities. Yeah. So I had my peace with them, and I walked out of there knowing I'm done. I can never go back. And I went to the doctor that I called out sick, went to the doctor the next day. She knew how hard I tried to keep working. But you take my feet from me, I'm done. And I told her that, and I said, I need to go on short-term disability. And so she approved it, absolutely approved it. Later, the corporate got involved from the company. I told them everything I went through, what they did to me, and I think they were really afraid of a lawsuit. And so I do have proof to this day of my attendance record, of how they worked me. But even she said, according to the duties of being an employee at their company, she was shocked that I even worked for them as long as I did, with all of my ailments, all of my issues, because when the corporate got involved, the HR and everything, and some other person, so a lot of people got involved, and they were just shocked that I even worked as long as I did under those conditions of my health. And so they basically, out of a long process, passed my short-term disability. I was running out of money because all the money I had was tied up in my house. So I'm racing against time to get my house sold, but that'll be the next story of how the next part unfolded. But so at this point, it took them until March to finally make the decision after, a period of time working with the doctor, me not getting better, because obviously everything I have is chronic. They decided to agreeing with the doctor and with the corporate that I no longer can work, lift, push, pull, stay on my feet, everything that's required to have a job, I couldn't do. And so under the American Disability Act of reasonable accommodations, I don't fit that and for their company. And it was agreed. That's basically what happened to my career, my life, my job world, how that all unfolded and ended. But at the same time, it changed my future of where I'm at. It changed my plans, obviously. No longer without a job. Obviously, I didn't even want to sell my house to look at a condominium. I mean, you got to have a job, you know. I wasn't going to use up all of my money out from my house to go that way, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to work. I was done. That is for the next story of the next part, as I change and pray to God of a new direction of what I was going to do, and to work through the fear. I mean, I'm talking scared. I was crying a lot at that time too, of my future, what was going to happen to me. There is just not enough words to say when that happens to somebody, of the fear that happens. And you could say, well, you believe in God, well, you should trust in God. And well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I do believe in God and I do trust in God. But when you're really going through something like that, it is really challenging. It is really hard. I don't know of anybody that could just, I don't know, just go through life and just going, it's okay, you know, everything's going to work out. And I mean, even though I kind of felt that way, or you kind of, you know, no, but maybe, I mean, it's in there, but it just, these things either are going to break you or make you stronger. And definitely they did make me stronger. But you start to feel in the next step, or the next video that I'm about to share, I start to see one miracle after another miracle after another miracle, of things coming together. Okay, even though at this particular time it wasn't there, it wasn't happening yet, and you're kind of overwhelmed. But stay tuned for that next video, because it will be a video of hope. It'll be a video of many, I call God moments, of things working out for me. That is just totally, to this day, is amazing. All right, so stay tuned to that next video. And I love you all. Thank you for sharing my journey. And remember, don't give up, whatever you're going through, because I know at that time it's hard to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a rainbow after that storm, but there is. So no matter what you're going through, I hope you'll just know that it won't stay that way forever. There is something good that will come out of it. And I always say, things don't happen to us, but for us. Try to carry that with you, that message, no matter what you're going through. All right, so I love you all, and I'll see you on that next video. And thanks for watching.